This is the Royal Naval Cemetery on Portland, a quiet corner of the Dorset coast, not far from where British anti-aircraft guns once tracked Luftwaffe bombers over the Channel. Today, it's a place of peace. Rows of white headstones, each one nearly identical, perfectly aligned and immaculately maintained by the Commonwealth War Graves Commission. And you'd expect to find Royal Navy sailors buried here. You'd even expect airmen and merchant seamen, the casualties of convoy duty and enemy raids. But you might not expect to find this. A grave for a German Luftwaffe airman killed in 1940, fighting for Nazi Germany, buried here on British soil with honour. That might seem strange, but this isn't a one-off. In fact, there are over 2,500 German war graves in the United Kingdom alone. And to explain how that happened, we have to talk about humanity, even during times of war. Even in the darkest days of the Second World War, there were rules. The Geneva Conventions, ratified long before the war began, required all combatant nations to treat enemy dead with dignity. That meant proper burial, records of death, and care for resting places. It wasn't just about morality, it was about setting a standard. Because if you mistreated their dead, what might they do to yours? During the Battle of Britain, German aircraft were shot down in huge numbers. Some airmen bailed out over land, others crashed into the sea, and some, like Lieutenant Paul Temmer, a Luftwaffe pilot, shot down during a bombing raid over Portland in August 1940, were killed when their planes were brought down by RAF fighters or by anti-aircraft fire. Temmer's body was recovered and he's now buried right here, in the very cemetery of the Royal Navy personnel that he attacked. Or take Unter Officer Gerhard Kramer, also of the Luftwaffe. His bomber was shot down near Portland during a raid in the summer of 1940. He too is buried on the hillside above Portland Harbour in the same soil as British sailors lost defending those waters. Then there's Friedrich zur Sehr Hans Hartwig, a naval officer from a German U-boat sunk over there in the English Channel. His body washed ashore in Sussex in 1941 and he now rests in Seaford Cemetery, quite a distance away from here, alongside Commonwealth servicemen and even one British civilian casualty. In Cannock Chase in the Midlands, in the German military cemetery there in Staffordshire, the largest German war cemetery in the UK, lie almost 5,000 German dead. Most of them were moved there after the war, but even so, many German graves were left in places scattered across dozens of local and also military cemeteries like this one on Portland. After the Second World War, the German War Graves Commission, or the Volksbund Deutscher Kriegsgräberversorger, worked closely with British authorities. In many cases, German remains were exhumed and moved to centralised cemeteries like Cannock Chase. Some, like these here in Portland, were left in place because they were already respectfully buried. The Commonwealth War Graves Commission was already maintaining the site as a whole, and families often requested that their sons, brothers or husbands be not moved again. So you can see with these four graves in particular, Willibald Amann died on the 8th of the 5th, 1941, 8th of May. Cornelius Mildenberger, the very same day. Paul Tibusch, same day. Alexander Wolf, same day. So from that, you can probably work out that the four people buried here were most probably German airmen who were shot out of the sky, possibly over here, over Portland. And today in death, they lie right next to British soldiers. In the very lands and territory that they tried to bomb. In death, they'd found peace, and what a beautiful place to be buried. And the British, to their credit, tended to leave them here. Still today, there are still some German soldiers, German airmen buried right here. It's important to note that these men weren't buried here out of sympathy for their cause. They were enemy combatants. They brought destruction to British soil. But once they were dead, they were no longer enemies or a threat. They were sons, some were teenagers, some barely had time or the age to understand the ideology they fought for, Nazism. What mattered to the people who buried them was just simply that they were human, and that even in war, we don't let go of humanity and our values. You can also see that each grave is slightly different shaped. The German graves are slightly a different shape to the British ones, and curved tops on the British with the straighter lines on top. And you can also see they're marked by an iron cross as well. And only veil information, I imagine the date of birth was added later, once a bit more information was found. But yeah, the German War Graves Commission still look after these sites in England today. Today, German war graves in Britain are still tended to by both nations. British gardeners trim the grass, German families occasionally visit, school children even lay wreaths. The graves are somewhat quiet, respectful and also equal. Because remembrance isn't just about honouring the victors, it's about recognising the true cost of war, not just on our side but on both sides, and making sure, if nothing else, that in the end, no one is forgotten.